Okay, so we're going to start with the standards. That's the wrong one too. Okay, within planning, we have specialized standards. And so we have our ELA standards that, as you know, are already here. And then we have very, very specialized standards in the ELD standards. So these ELD standards are already here. As I had pointed out, you can query it like this. The one we're working on, or they're already in the system. Obviously, I can create additional standards as well. Select the goal, the standard, and then the strand, and then the standard, basically. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of look at what this looks like. As you see, it's assigned to 6th grade. This is the strand itself. In other words, it's the substandard. And here is the standard itself, okay? Okay. So once you've created a specific ELD standard, you have the ability to create the rubric. And so I'm using, the marks. So in other words, the marks are like the scores. You know, we could add additional ones, but California only uses 3: emerging, bridging, and expanding. Now, these particular standards, if we were to look over here, and if we were actually inputting cool. If we were actually inputting the standard, we would see the scores here. So you see the score. Of course, the ELD lesson would be here, which it is. That's excellent. Now, going back to after creating the marks, we need to be able to describe what that mark looks like as it relates to the standard. So this is where we go into the rubric. So we're going to go down here, and we're going to get to number 14. Okay, so 14, as you see here, this is the particular standard that was created under the instructional standards for ELD. Okay, so what we're saying is if we click here, we are using the emerging, the bridging, and expanding that previously came from the ELD marks. Okay, so we had 3 ELD marks. So what we're doing is we are defining to the user which one to select. So this here is really the definition. Okay. So this is definition of emerging as it relates to the specific standard. As it relates to, let's just say 6th grade standard, part 1, number 1. Okay, and so this is the definition of what emerging means as it relates to this particular standard. The bridging, this is the definition of bridging as it relates to this particular standard. Okay, so we'll just, you can add a subgroup, but there's no need to, and then we're going to hit update. Okay, so based on that information, it should have populated here based on the standard that we selected. So let's go here. We're going to go into Lesson Plan Creator. We'll go to Edit Lesson. And we'll do ELD at 10 o'clock. right? So we already have one selected here, okay? So we know this particular standard because I created it and I added the rubric uh, that defined the standard or the score that is. So we know what it is. And so basically, the user saves it, and based on this particular time, there is a specific standard, and we know what that standard was. That standard is listed here. Right? So we know that's the standard. And so we should see the definition of emerging and bridging and expanding as it relates to the specific standard here. So they know how to score the students because it's a specialized standard. And so basically, and as we have, well, we had it up. Here it is. Okay, so with that said, you should be able to see the definition as it relates to emerging, bridging, and expanding. So as they read these definitions, they know how to specifically score the student according to the specific standard. So everything is actually correct. So this is just not expanding, basically. I think this is really just it's probably an HTML issue. So I'm going to hit save and record. When we retrieve, March, and we already have the score. Well, now it took in 2 scores because I added, right? But obviously, there was only one lesson. It would allow me to put it on a different day. Okay, so that's we got to make sure that we code that correctly. Let's code it correctly. That if I create another lesson or the same lesson and I add another score, it doesn't automatically just roll over to the next day. That's what it did here. And then we also noticed the little bug where the lesson plan is not populating. We should be able to see the lesson plan and make the connection. We know that the print is working. This is a blessing. Exceptional. 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 This puts us ahead of people again. They don't have anything specific to ELD. Now, what we do have here is a description. I'm going to put that in the thing because that web coder just Vamsy. He got lazy when fixing it. We'll get that. All right. Thanks a lot.